listen, give me an ER nurse any day over a doc. Because I've seen nurses save patients' lives before the doc ever got to the room. So if any of y'all are thinking about being a doctor, do not dismiss your nurse. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you just stretching? Okay. So, it's a pretty interesting field to be in. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that, the work is easy. Sometimes it is, most of the time it's not, especially during flu season. Last flu season on my, I worked 24-hour shift, so I worked 12 and 12, and on my 2 shifts, I did over 1,000 flu tests on my 2 shifts.
Wow.
Yeah, so flu season is bad, but strep season is good. It's all year round. You can get strep anytime. So we always do streps, but we did a lot of flu tests. It was really bad in Tyler. We found out that year that it had actually originated in Tyler and went nationwide. CDC found the point of origin. Patient numero uno was started in Tyler and went all over the nation. So it's a pretty great, I loved my job. I can't tell you too many people that can actually say that they looked forward to going to their job every day, that they loved their job, but I loved my job. I just retired last June because ETMC was bought out by a different company, and I did not want to go through a corporate takeover. I've seen those before in the medical field, and they are not pretty. So I decided to retire last June, and so I do miss it, and I do miss seeing all the people that I worked with. The thing about usually the medical profession is no matter what job you go to, you see the same people over and over. So you'll wind up with the same nurses or the same docs or the same x-ray techs, lab techs don't change jobs very often, so you don't see a lot of like advertisements for lab techs because it is such a good job and it does pay very well. So you can start out straight out of school, some people making over $18 an hour, and then you can work your way up from that according to, you get paid more for like working in the emergency room, you get paid more for that. If you work in the regular lab, according to what your special thing that you like to do, they kind of like to cross-train, but you may have a specialty, like you may love chemistry, like I loved chemistry, not organic chemistry, but I liked chemistry in the lab and wasn't real crazy about hematology. So I always, if they put me over in the big lab, is what we called it, I always worked in the chemistry department because it was what I liked to do. But you can specialize. You can do things like what's called HLA, which is a type of blood banking where you look for antibodies. Oh, and I have a cool picture of a virus. Have y'all ever seen a virus?
No.
It's pretty wicked.
What kind of virus?
It's just a general virus. Let me find it.
So to your program at TJC,
Mm-hmm.
doable,
Get the
okay.
basics done.
Yes, get your basics done first, I'm telling you. That's the smart way to do it. Also, this is a virus.
Oh.
Pretty wicked.
They're like a bug.
It is a bug.
And that be inside us?
Yes.
That's what makes you sick.
Yeah, do you have the flu virus? This is what it looks like.
Oh, wow.
So
I did not know that. Did y'all?
It's
I mean, I
pretty,
saw it.
I had no idea.
pretty mean looking.
You just said you hadn't seen a virus.
Well, I didn't know it because I didn't see the pictures at the time.
You don't know what a virus is?
Like a
I mean, I
spider.
know what a virus
Yeah.
is, but I
Is that
don't
what a
know.
stomach virus look like too?
That's what any virus looks like.
Well,
It look like a spider.
Miss Angel, why don't you use more fan?
Yeah.
Have you ever dealt with somebody
It's
that
dead.
has CPA?
CPA, what is CPA?
And you can't feel pain?
Oh, no, labs, typically don't do nerve studies, those are done by, doctors that specialize in nerve studies. Yes, sir.
Okay, I got a question. Like, when I eat a lot or something, my mom would say I have a worm in my stomach. I just want to know,
You could,
like, worms be in people's stomachs for real?
but have you, yes, yes.
How
Well, have you
I
seen like dogs, you know, when they poop, like
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
like if you feed a little bit dog some worm
Yeah.
stuff.
There's a
it
lot
get
of
little bit
intestinal.
worms go out.
true.
In my stomach.
Well, I think that about my
Can
son too, but you're just growing. You're
Yeah.
just at that age. More
Yeah.
than likely, you're just very physical. You know, you're active
Right.
in sports and things like that. You're burning a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Are y'all
And-
supposed to get it
some
out?
enemy making me want to eat?
No,
No.
we're just the ones that diagnose you with the worm. We're the ones that they bring us your poop,
I seen
and we look at it, and you can see it, it has a head and a tail. And then we can decide by what that worm looks like as to what kind of worm, whether it's a pinworm or some other kind of intestinal worm.
It can happen.
And then we call the doc and we say, also worms can be on your skin. There's very small parasites that can live on your skin. So you may have something that looks like a rough patch on your skin, and the doc will scrape it, and they bring us that, and we look for pieces of a worm in that.
What is like staph infection? Is it?
Yeah, staph is a bug. It's it's Staphylococcus aureus is usually what it is, and it can also be the flesh-eating staph. If y'all seen the pictures of the flesh-eating staph, that stuff is no bueno.
Yeah,
no
nothing to
joke,
wait
buddy.
around about getting taken care of.
Yeah, it. Or have you ever seen somebody been bit by a brown recluse?
oh, around what?
Recluse
Like
spider.
a spider,
Yes.
where it like rots out.
Yeah, it will rot out a hole wherever
seen
it
it.
bites you, and they have to go in and clean it out. I've seen holes this big around.
Like, it's a hole through your body?
You ain't never seen
Like I mean,
would-
like it'll just be like black, like
Yeah, and they go in-
missing like an area. Like Gunner's dad was in the hospital with it. I mean, anybody could be
Did the
bitten.
skin
There's
grow back? Yeah.
It's
I got a hole.
Sort of.
sort of. I mean, it's back like skin, you know, but there's probably like a dip
Yeah.
there, but not like like
Yeah,
it
there's no
was.
hole. What they do with that is they clean it all out and then they let it heal from the inside out.
But it can happen to anyone. Like the things she's saying, like staph. I mean,
You can pick that
You
up
can pick-
anywhere.
yeah.
Off of these desktops.
So when your mom says wash your hands before you eat, why?
So you don't get a hole in your
Put that
hand.
stuff in your mouth.
Yes.
That's right. Nearly every disease in the world is hand to mouth. You put your hand on this, you stick your fingers in your mouth, you scratch the inside of your ear, you pick your nose, whatever. You put that onto a mucous membrane somewhere, and bam, it's got the perfect environment to grow.
So you telling me I can't pick my nose without a hole getting in my
No,
arm?
no,
Get a
Cedric.
hole in
What
your
she
arm.
saying?
That was from a spider bite. Okay, but yes, we're saying, okay, who doesn't do that sometimes?
Right, who
You know,
doesn't do this?
If you have touched something, you know, then you can cause it to get into your system.
Right, I'm
Washing
weird.
your hands your best
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah, I'm weird in that I don't eat ham from anybody that I know, and I don't eat eggs unless the yellow is cooked hard, because an egg is a perfect environment to grow any disease in the world. Perfect environment. If you want to grow tuberculosis, you can drop it down in an egg and it will live there and grow and prosper. It's a great medium to grow
So we
stuff
need to
in.
do hard boiled or scrambled.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not when the sunny side up and
Yeah, no more
and I don't
studies
need
on it.
ham because ham has worms in it. So if I cook it, I eat
So I
it.
ate worms yesterday.
Did you know it's been cooked?
Yeah, but I have to know that I've cooked it. I don't trust anybody else's cooking with corn.
What was the purpose of the one? Like, why are they here?
They're here to eat things.
It's normal.
They do have a purpose, like,
They be living in the trash can. Why they gotta live in our bodies for?
well, because they like you really well. They say, oh yeah, he looks yummy.
What about salami? Like, you know how some people eat cold salami? Like, is this
Yeah.
just an easy way to get it?
Well, no, because salami is cured.
Salami is what?
Cured. So it's like really hard. It's been, usually it's smoked and then salt cured and heat cured. So usually that kills out anything that's in there.
Bologna.
Like, the sandwich.
He talking about
Bologna's kind of
bologna.
iffy. I don't eat bologna.
Bologna, I don't eat bologna.
Bologna nasty.
They give you a drug along with an antibiotic, but they give you, it's called Vermox, and so they give you Vermox, which has just like it says, a vermin. You know, you think of a vermin, that's something really nasty. Okay, so they give you Vermox. The Vermox kills the drug. The OX in the Vermox stands for a penicillin product. And so that kills any secondary infection that the parasite could have.
What about
Yeah.
chicken?
Mhm.
Like chicken, like at the restaurants. and
Chicken has salmonella in it,
Salmonella.
you know.
Yeah.
You gotta see. That's why you look at your chicken
Salmonella.
before you eat it.
Yeah,
Like this
I
thick
know.
bread,
Like,
or like
I
this
know
thick
that.
bread.
yeah. This
Needs
is
to be
real.
cooked.
Popeyes and them, like, yeah.
You have to look at it before you eat it because they can make you very, very sick. Salmonella actually can kill you.
Yeah, it will make
That's
you
why
really
every
sick if you get it. Okay, so how did you get interested in it? Like, I mean, none of us have probably even ever considered doing something like. Have y'all? I haven't. I haven't even thought of it. You have. Good. Okay, how did you get interested?
Well, I was going to school in Fort Worth, and my high school guidance counselor called me in and said, have you thought about what you want to do when you get out of high school? Well, I hadn't even thought about getting out of high school, so no, I had not thought about what I was going to do. And so she gave me a sheet of paper, 3 or 4 of them had a bunch of list of stuff in it, and I thought, no. And I looked through it, and it came over, one of them was chemist, and the other one was lab tech. And I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to do that. And I didn't do it straight out of high school because I was raising kids, and you know how that goes. Kids take priority. And so once my kids got up old enough that they were around y'all's age, I went back to school as an adult and took everything to do a lab technology degree, and took my state boards and went to work. My first job was at a blood bank where they cross and type blood for if you're bleeding out some way. So my second job was at Gilmer, at the little hospital there in Gilmer, and I was the supervising lead tech at that facility, and then I moved to the emergency room in Tyler, and I worked in what used to be the morgue closet, where they would roll in the dead bodies and shut the door. So they converted that into the little stat lab that I worked in, and
Did you ever do like tests on bodies that were deceased to try to determine cause of death?
no, usually that goes to the pathologist.
Okay.
And the pathologist is your ultimate boss in the laboratory. So if he comes in and says, do this, do this, do this, it doesn't matter what your other supervisors have told you to do. He is the man, and you do what he tells you to do.
Oh, so the pathologist would be a he?
Pathologist.
The big boss would be a he?
No, not necessarily. We have female pathologists also. Yes, ma'am.
What's the most boring graphic thing you've seen in person?
On a person or?
No, in person.
Oh, in person. I've seen flesh-eating bacteria. Lots of blown up things. Blown up hands, feet, body parts. What about one? I've seen lots of chainsaw slices across their
Hey,
thigh.
you watched Concussion?
You can't see a concussion.
No, I'm saying have you watched the movie?
Oh, no, yes,
Oh, you have with Will Smith?
yeah.
Okay, so like, is it like that?
I forgot about that.
They kind of over dramatize a lot of things to make it more interesting for you, but you do see some interesting things. You meet some interesting people. You see lots and lots of stuff underneath the microscope. And if ever a lab tech has a question about something that they're not really sure what it is, they leave it for the pathologist, and the pathologist then will diagnose it because he or she has seen everything.
Okay. So in the environment where you're working, how many lab techs are usually in one area together? Like, did you have camaraderie in your,
Yes.
or are you just working
Yeah.
alone?
If at South Broadway, I worked by myself, which I liked, because I like for people to bring me stuff to do and then go away and leave me alone. So I liked working alone. But whenever I worked at the main hospital, in each department, there could be anywhere from 3 to 16 people working according to what department. Chemistry had more people, and hematology had more people. But like blood banking only had a couple people. There were, and a lot of departments are combined, like urinalysis, coagulation, and hematology are all combined under one heading of hematology. So hematology is like the study of your blood. So it's everything in your blood. So you learn to identify cells that are in your blood, and you learn to count each individual cell. And then, because a lot of them, they order a CBC with a differential, and so that means you have to make a slide of the blood and stain it, and then put it underneath the microscope and count the cells and report it back to the doc.
So it's something you're glad you did.
Yes,
You
very
enjoyed
Yes.
2 years of college.
Right.
And are there any other programs around? Do you know if Kilgore?
I don't know if Kilgore does.
Okay.
I do know TJC does, but I'm not sure about Kilgore. But wouldn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
And it's the same amount of time that usually a nurse goes to school also. So some of those things can go hand in hand. I've had a lot of docs that started out as lab techs. And I really like those doctors because they understand what's going on in the lab. And they're not one of the ones that come and hassle you about why haven't they got results for Mr. Joe Blow over here, because they know that it takes time. So, yes, sir.
What's one of the things that took you a long time to find out what was wrong with
Most everything is pretty immediate. There's not many things that you can't find out just within 30 minutes nowadays. Because of our analyzers are so sophisticated now, they can pick up things that might have taken us manually. Like used to, it took 6 weeks, I believe, to find out if a woman was pregnant. Now it takes 15 minutes in the lab to find out if she's pregnant. Because they use a thing called a monoclonal antibody, and it's like this, and antibody has it's usually round, and it has all these little appendages on it. And so that will be soaked into a strip at some factory somewhere far, far away. And they ship it to us, and then whenever we drop the urine on there, if the woman has the antigen for HCG, which is human gonadotrophic hormone, that antigen will bind to that antibody and float free. And whenever it floats free, it shows up as a stripe on a pregnancy test. All tests in a laboratory start out, the threshold of accuracy is 99%.
Wow.
His sperm crawl.
They swim. They have a tail and they swim. They're pretty cute underneath the microscope.
That is like little.
Yeah, they're little round.
You said sperm cute? What'd you say?
They are cute. They're little.
They are. They are so small.
Hold it down.
I'll show you kind of.
You over
Chop. Yeah. Sperm usually looks like this.
That's exactly what I was saying. Like a little balloon.
Okay? And it swims. These little flagella swim like this and push it along. So a Giardia parasite also looks almost identical to that, except it's got big old eye looking guys. So a parasite and a sperm looks a whole lot alike.
Do y'all get them confused sometimes?
No, you can really tell because the Giardia has the eyeball looking things, which are the suckers.
I
I know. Yeah.
All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. Is there any other legitimate question that goes along with our presentation today about her job that you would want to know?
Yes, sir.
How much did you say like you make a year?
You can make anything, starting out, you'd probably start out at either $15 to $18 an hour. So, and you can go up to probably $30, $35 an hour.
So what you make a year?
That is none of your business.
Thank you.
A lot, I made a lot.
Oh
Yeah,
Nobody.
I'll say that.
So the potential is there to make a good living to where you could provide for your family,
Right, and
which
it's
is what I want for all of you.
right, and it's a technical thing, it's called a technical degree. So you don't have to have 4 years of college and then graduate and all of that. You can do everything in 2 years.
So we did have an ER doctor come speak with us last week. You all haven't seen the video yet. 12 years it
12
took her
years.
before she could begin working. 12 years of school. So here is a 2-year program making a good living.
Right,
So
All right.
so what?
you only got 2 years under your belt in college?
No, I actually have an associate's degree. No, I have a bachelor's degree. I went back and got my bachelor's,
So
but
4 years.
yeah. But that was after I was working, and I just did it on my own time and for my own benefit, not for.
Necessarily
My
a
last
requirement.
piece of advice is if you decide to do this and you go to college and you go to take your state boards, don't take, because you're gonna have enough college hours, don't take the MLT state boards. Take your medical technologist, because they get paid more.
Okay.
So,
So what do we say to Miss Kathy for coming today?